This video is going to be about the Moulton clones of the famous Alex Moulton bicycle, which among upright bikes is considered, at least on this channel, the very best. It is the speed record holder, it is the most comfortable, perhaps it also has the most amazing and unique design. The space frame, which has been borrowed from the crane industry decades ago, but which still looks like it is something out of the future. Now, if you want to get my free book, this is my shop, you could just click on this button and you will learn an awful lot about building out any frame, really, not just the Brompton frame, but any frame that you want, including the Alex Moulton, to be a lot faster, a lot more comfortable, and also possibly electrically assisted. So it's a book I'm giving away for free. You can also get it from Amazon. If you click over there, you can get it right away. Whereas if you get the free version from me, then you'll have to wait for a few hours, maybe a couple of days, but you can also get it for free. So in this video, I will go into some of the Moulton clones that are available, and I'm giving you all the links I have just in case you want to do your own research or make a purchase. These are certainly for the most part as impressive or almost as impressive as the original Moulton design. So let's start with the Kimorei. This is the work of a Japanese engineer and designer. You see that the front suspension is totally different from the Moulton. Even the space frame is a bit different, and I'm not sure if this is a separable frame. I do see what appears to be joints or some kind of a connection on the brake, so I suspect that this is a separable frame. If somebody knows more about this, please comment below. Maybe you can unscrew something here and you can separate it. That's possible. But the main thing is that the suspension is drastically different, both the front and the rear. As you know, on the original Moulton, you typically have an air-inflated bubble in the rear. Because Alex Moulton was born into a rubber business, he already had access to a rubber factory. So he created that adjustable inflated suspension, which I believe is very similar to what he designed for the original mini car that was released back in the 20th century. So what we have here is not air inflated. I'm not sure if it is something that's adjustable, but you can see that the rear triangle would go up and down, and then this part would push against something that looks very much like a car shock. I don't know what they have inside. Maybe it's just a spring, maybe it's some other pressure mechanism, but it's very elaborate and very different from the original Moulton. And then there is the front. You can see that this area tilts, and once again you have that car shock looking suspension up here. Totally different from what you see on the Moulton, but overall an impressive looking bike, especially configured with these expensive aero rims and basically all the components. This is a racing bike, a road bike. Unfortunately, you cannot put a really fat tire in here for comfort. So I'm personally partial for a more comfortable ride than this one. And based on the feedback from the Brompton people who follow this channel, a lot of us would like to have something a bit more comfortable than a 1.2 or 1.3 racing tire. But this is for people who want a very elaborate, very supportive suspension with a lot of speed and a very rigid frame. I should also mention that support for both the steering column as well as the seat post is also excellent, because you have bars going all the way up to the top. So you're not going to get much of any twisting or bending here. There's no opportunity for flexing, really. Here it is the company. There is a company called Kimorei, and the price for this kind of stuff actually goes up pretty far. It starts from around $7,000 or $8,000 going all the way up to $12,000 depending upon configuration. So I'm giving you this link below just in case you want to check them out. And here is what the Google AI has to say about this. Yes, it can be as low as $7,000, but it can go up to $12,000 depending on what you want. And These are still just the frame sets. If you want them to build it for you, it's going to be even more money than this. So while a lot of people are buying Brompton clones for the cheaper price, in the case of a Moulton clone, you're not necessarily going to get that. Perhaps it is an unusual bike to consider, but I also view the original design of the Bike Friday Holiday, which is the smallest cargo bike on the market, as a kind of a Moulton lookalike or Moulton clone kind of a cargo bike. Obviously, Moulton never made a cargo bike. There's none on the market. But this one, especially if you have seen it in real life, is very similar to the Moulton, and it does, at least in the sense that it does have a space frame in the rear, not in the front. The single tube that goes to the front is also an older solution. This is the classic version. Now they have a new one, which I like less. So this is the new one. Instead of just having a single tube at the top that's thicker, you have two smaller tubes, and there is a curvy tube that, in my opinion, just destroys the Moulton-esque look of this bike. But the nice thing about Bike Fridays is that basically all the bikes you get from them are tailor-made. You order them and then they make it in the color and with the configuration that you want. Notice that you cannot put here the kind of electric motor that we saw on the classic version, which you see here. So this kind of a center drive is just not going to fit on the new one, but they can put on a variety of electric drives if that's what you want. You can certainly just buy the frame yourself and configure it and add the electric propulsion system onto it the same way I did it with my Brompton that's described in the free book, or you can have them come up with a solution. The nice thing is it is all hand built. It's gonna last a lifetime if you take care of it. The starting point is only $3,000. Obviously this is just the basic, but it includes more than the frame. This is like a basic bicycle fully configured. If you want to add electric support, even a roll-off hub, those are available for more money. I'm not gonna configure them now, but probably if I wanted to get something I really like, it would probably cost closer to $5,000. Now consider what you can get from Moulton for $3,000 or $5,000. For $3,000, probably nothing, not a new bike. For $5,000, yes, you'll get something, although it's not a cargo bike. So this is definitely a nice option you have. Then I mentioned in a recent video this Japanese frame, this Yasuhiro frame, which is made by a company named Soma. And I think you just buy the frame. So this is the frame set, and it's not that bad. It's really not that expensive. And it's called the Yasuhiro or Yasuhiro mini cargo bike. So this is a bit like the Holiday we were just looking at, but what I like about it is especially how a single tube goes all the way from front and rear. So this can load a lot of weight front and rear. In the case of the Moulton, the rear is really an attachment. It's not integrated into the rest of the frame. So it's not going to be able to hold as much, although it does give you the versatility of removing the front and the rear if you want to remove them. Here is another picture of the same bike. This has been floating around on the internet for quite a while. In fact, I saw one of my favorite bike shop. It was either prodrivebike or one of the other ones that carried one of these bikes, fully configured, obviously. And you can probably order it from a high-end bike shop in the configuration that you want. It seems to have 20-inch rims, and it can definitely take 2.5 or maybe even 3-inch wide tires. So that's for comfort, which is an important thing for me at least. I personally would want a different color, not the black one, but this is nicely done. Perhaps the branding is a bit too loud for my taste. I also see that the front, this grill in the front is removable, but the tubes are a single piece. They just go to the front all the way up. So maybe it's adjustable, maybe you can push it out a bit. And it does have disc brakes, which is really nice. And this integrated single piece rear is really impressive. It can probably carry an awful lot of weight. Moving on to yet another Japanese creation, the Dino Vector. This is actually an Alex Moulton frame, but it is heavily modified. As you can see, they have this comfort handle, and you recognize this brand from the forks that they build. They buy the frames from Alex Moulton, but they build their own forks. As you can see, it is pretty different from what you see on a standard Moulton. As you are hitting the bumps, you are not pushing but pulling these springs in the back. I don't know if this feels any better than riding an actual Moulton suspension. It's very hard to outdo Moulton when it comes to that, but this is a nice bike, and the cost of the frame is only about $4,000. The cost of the bike configured as it is about $6,000 US, which is very reasonable. Obviously, I'm comparing apples to oranges, but compared to the Brompton titanium frame, which obviously is much lighter, this one seems to be quite a competent rival. Although it's not really a rival if you are a commuter. If you want to fold a bike and put it on the bus, then obviously get the Brompton. But if you are just an apartment dweller who wants something a bit more compact and something that lasts for a lifetime, I think this is going to give you a lot more pleasure than the titanium Brompton would. Here is a close-up of this unusual spring mechanism in the front fork. Once again, this is a racing rim with very narrow, very uncomfortable tires, not a frame you could configure for comfort. Here is the actual website of the company, and I'm giving you a link below, as with all of the other options. They seem to prefer not very glossy or shiny paint jobs, and I'm not sure if they are doing the painting or Moulton. Paint job actually looks rather primitive compared to what Moulton charges for some of the mid and upper range frames, which are so beautifully painted. This is it. This is not a comprehensive list. There are more Moulton options out there if you really look for them. I don't think any of them is better or even all that much cheaper than the Moulton. So with these, you are looking for uniqueness. And Alex Moulton passed away, unfortunately. He was in his 90s, but I'm gonna put a link below for this website because his residence, the castle where he used to make the bicycles, is now a museum, and they have a very comprehensive website that gives you a history of the property, and apparently you can visit them. So this is just more fun stuff for Alex Moulton bicycle lovers. And this is going to be the last link. I'll see you in the next video.
I'll be back.